Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Colonel Stan Scravitt. I am the Northeast Region Director of Recruiting and Retention, and thanks for joining me once again for a little presentation about recruiting and retention in the Civil Air Patrol. Normally, I would have Colonel Ninnis with me, but he is tied up with a network issue and won't be joining us. So, you're stuck with me. Man, it's kind of tough doing it here by myself, but we'll make it work. So on your site, as you're watching this, you should be able to see a place where you can add comments or questions off to the right-hand side. Matter of fact, I'll throw something in there. Let me know who is on, please. All right, so I just put that up there. I will keep an eye on that. But if you would go ahead and let me know that you're out there so I'm not talking by myself. Hey, Franklin, I see you there. Thank you. There is a slight delay, so we'll be taking a look at that. So it looks like I got 4 people watching. Very cool. We will get started. So tonight, we'll be talking a little bit about recruitment package, and also about some ideas that you can consider for launching your campaign. So, hey Joe, thanks for joining. Appreciate you coming in. New York 033. Jose, thank you for joining from New Jersey. Very cool. All right, so let's get started. And I will try to pop in here and take a look at things as we're going along. So let's get to sharing my screen. So we're going to get into a little bit of infinity effect as we're doing this, but I'm going to share my full screen, and we should be able to see everything. If you can't, please let me know. So I may switch between screens real quick just to see how things are working out. But I'm going to share my full screen because that seemed to work the best. And I am going to minimize my screen. And here we are. So what we're talking about, we started this part in the series. I came across a wonderful book. It's called 365 Ideas for Recruiting, Retaining, Motivating, and Rewarding Your Volunteers. If you haven't picked up this book, I suggest that you go grab it. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. And we're going to talk about this over many more chapters. Right now, we're going to kind of look at chapters 3 and 4. It's not a very exciting presentation, but I think there's a lot of good things out of here. So let me, there we go. So the first part of this presentation, we're going to be talking about creating your recruitment package. Okay. And the primary reason that you want to do this is you want to have the people that your prospects, you want to show them why they want to be a volunteer for your organization. But before we go into building this recruitment package, we actually have to go one step back and talk about our brand. So we have, when we talk about brand, basically a brand is an expectation of something that's known, whether it's a company or a product, that there's a brand, that when you see that brand, you understand what that is all about. Okay? This is what defines what we're doing. So like Coca-Cola. Immediately when I say Coca-Cola, you can picture the logo, you can picture the colors, you can picture, I mean, Coca-Cola does a wonderful job of branding their particular product, right? There's a certain expectation. When you grab a can of Coke or a bottle of Coke and you pop it open, you are going to get the same experience over and over and over and over again. Another brand is McDonald's. You go to McDonald's, there's a certain expectation that you get when you happen to go to McDonald's. And that is what a brand does for you, that it sets that expectation. So when we talk about Civil Air Patrol and we talk about our brand in Civil Air Patrol, we have to be able to communicate that. And when people become part of the organization, that there's a certain expectation and that there's that we kind of live up to our brand, right? What makes us stand out? There's many different youth organizations. You have Boy Scouts, you have 4-H, you have Girl Scouts. What sets Civil Air Patrol apart? There's aviation organizations. You have the Young Eagles. You have AOPA. You have all kinds of different organizations. What sets us apart? What makes us unique? Search and rescue organizations. There's all kinds of search and rescue organizations. Each state has a search and rescue organization. FEMA does specific things dealing with search and disaster relief. What sets us apart? Okay, how do we stand out in a crowd? How do we stand out where everybody is busy, but they still want to volunteer and they're looking for volunteer organizations? How do we stand out among all those groups? All right, so as I mentioned earlier, you can ask questions at any time. Let me go make sure that things are still working. So I'm going to pop over here real quick. Ava, thanks you for jumping on from New Jersey. Very cool. All right. I'm going to go back to the presentation. If we got any questions, please dive in. Okay. I'm running solo here. Darren abandoned me. So how do you find out how good your local brand is, right? How well is Civil Air Patrol known in your part of the world, right? So here's an exercise that you need to take with you, and it's something that you need to do regularly to make sure that you're living up to your brand, that the message about your brand is going out. So the first thing to do is survey or conduct interviews with the members of your organization, really specifically asking the questions, what are they hearing from their friends and family about Civil Air Patrol, right? And take really good notes, right? You want to find out what people are saying about Civil Air Patrol. Do they know about it at all? Are they positive about Civil Air Patrol? Do they have negative feelings about Civil Air Patrol? I can tell you one of the wings that I was in, they had burned a lot of bridges with the sheriff's department, where the sheriff department did not want anything to do with Civil Air Patrol. It took 15 plus years to finally get back into good graces where we could operate in that particular part of the state. But 15 years because we ruined our brand for that part of the state. One of the other things that you're going to want to do is keep a file of your press clippings, or if it's on the internet, capture them some way that anytime that you're showing up in the newspaper, you want to capture that, because what you're trying to do is you're going to use those later into your recruiting packages, but it also helps you keep an eye on your brand. Are you shaping your brand properly? So you're going to see this in this presentation. This comes full circle as we go round and round, come back to these idea of press clippings. Okay, so one is anytime Civil Air Patrol is mentioned, that you want to capture this. Now, one of the things that I do is I've set up Google Alerts. So for any wing in the Northeast region, if Civil Air Patrol is mentioned, I get a notification and I go ahead and see what's being written about Civil Air Patrol, and fortunately, a lot of good stuff is being mentioned. So I appreciate that and the good work that you're doing out there. Next thing you want to do dealing with your local brand is look at all the promotional material that you have and make sure that it is consistent. Are we using the logos properly? Do we have logos on our letterhead? Are we the stationery that we use? Is it professional? Is it consistent? Are we giving a professional image when somebody comes to look at our particular part of the program? Hold focus groups, right? A focus group is, having a meeting maybe with your civic leaders or various religious groups or businesses, and talk with those groups to find out how they are perceiving Civil Air Patrol and what value that you are providing to your community in regards to that, to those different groups. Okay, so based on those 4 things, what you need to do is then pull together a report listing the positives and the negatives, and kind of keep that on file. Kind of use that to identify where you have to strengthen your brand, or things that you're already doing good, where you want to use them to benefit the program later. So, all right, let me take a quick look. Where? Okay. Okay, once again, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. All right, so I'm going to throw that out there. It gives you something to do. All right. So let me get back to our presentation here and moving on. Okay, so once you have this information, you've gone to find out what your local brand looks like, how Civil Air Patrol is being perceived in your local area. Now, some things that you need to work on to build a better brand. The first thing, and probably the most important thing, is promise only what you can deliver, right? Don't go out and talk about that you get these C-130 rides from the Air Force, with the expectation that it's going to happen every weekend. If you're doing that, great. But the odds are most units aren't doing that, so don't promise it. Right? Don't promise it as an expectation. If you're talking to a potential pilot, don't promise them the moon about all the opportunities the individual will be able to fly, because that's just not the reality of it. It's just not that clear cut. So be truthful and be honest, and then deliver upon what you promised. Okay. Other things that you build on your brand, look for differential. Look for what makes you stand out. So as I was talking about, we work with our youth. We do aerospace education, and we also do emergency services. Those are our 3 core missions. That's one way that we can differentiate ourselves. But as I mentioned before, there's other organizations doing youth groups. What makes us special? What makes us different? And capitalize upon that. Other groups are also doing aerospace education. What makes us different? What makes us better? And focus on that. Other folks are involved in search and rescue. What makes us different? What makes us better? And focus on that. And when you identify those things, then the next thing you need to do is figure out how you can make an emotional tie to the needs of your community or the needs of that individual that you're trying to recruit, right? You have to marry his needs or her needs with the organization's needs. And, you know, trying to get all that messaging correct and spend time focusing on that messaging, that will help you consistently building a better brand. And always looking back, how is your brand being perceived? Okay. All right, so let's get into the recruiting package. And while we're talking about this, if you have specific things that you're putting into your recruiting packages, go ahead and list them, right? Let's share with other people, okay? So first is your promotional materials. These can be brochures. It depends on the group that you're looking at, right? So if I was aiming for aerospace educators, right? So educators that could work in our aerospace program, I would probably use the aerospace brochures that are available, and my messaging would be around that particular. I would have different packages for cadets and senior members. If I was targeting pilots, I would have in my promotional materials specific things addressing pilots. Okay, so you can build multiple packages. So it's not necessarily a build one type of package and have it serve everyone. You know, if you're looking for chaplains or clergy, then, you know, there's specific things that you would put in regarding those individuals, right? So typically in there, you know, kind of explaining what the program is, a brochure, some of the events that are going on for your particular program, just, you know, informational things, perhaps a list of links that they can go and do additional research. That would definitely be part of that promotional material. The history of the organization. This goes back to those press releases, right? That'll help you with that aspect. If you've been keeping them through the years, you can talk about, you know, kind of write your own history for your unit, because you really want to tie it back to the community. What have you been doing for the community? And if you can go out and indicate that over the years, you've been on X amount of searches with X amount of fines, that is beneficial. Or if you have individuals that have gone on to maybe a military academy, became a high-ranking officer, became an astronaut, that's great stuff to talk about your local history, okay? Not all units have that, but if you can find those unique things, you know, did you help with a flood? Did you help with fire? I'm reading the fascinating book right now from Maine to Mexico, talking about our members, and there's 270 stories in there, absolutely fascinating, talking about what they did in World War II, you know, with the German submarines that were off our shores, right? For each unit, you need to build your stories to talk about that. And they talked about the various bases and stuff. The other thing that you want to look at are spell out your specific needs, right? If you're looking for pilots, that should be part of your recruiting package, that you have something in there to help fast track a new pilot into the program. If you're looking for mission staff, right, putting information in there, talking about what it takes to become somebody on the mission staff, the qualifications that you're looking for. If you're looking for a logistics officer, put that information, that you want somebody that loves working with inventory and supplies, and, you know, all the, you know, there are people out there that love to crunch those numbers and keep an eye on things like that. So make sure that you spell out your needs there. Having accurate contact information. So definitely part of the package is you want something in there where you have a individual that you are pushing people to contact, providing their name, their telephone number, their email address, and also, especially dealing with telephone, what's the best time to make that connection? You know, is it you know, Monday evenings at 5, right? Put that information in there. If it's only on weekends, put that information. Whoever you choose for that has to be very personable. They have to be, you know, that you can get them, you know, onto the, that they can be connected, and you know, there's somebody that you want to talk with, right? That has information, that knows what's going on, and you can make that easy connection. Not everybody wants to just join an organization and become a volunteer, right? Sometimes you got people that just, you know, they want to learn about the program and they're willing to simply give you money to help your program be more successful. So asking, you know, giving them information on where they can donate, how they can donate, what donations that you need, put that in part of the package, you know, and just phrase it as such. You know, if you don't have time to become a volunteer, would you consider, you know, donating to help support, you know, whatever part of the program it is. Positive stories, right? Going back to positive stories, that goes back to those press releasings, those news clippings that you have. And, you know, include some of those. Actually include that right into your package, your recruiting package. Put those stories out. Okay. Hold on one second. I think Darren may be joining us. Okay. So I sent him a note. So hopefully we'll see him on a little later. And then last but not least, because we're going to go check, see what you've shared with us, testimonials, right? People that are in your organization, you know, what has it done for them? Get a testimonial for some cadets. Maybe some cadets who had finished the program, went off to college, went off to military, right? They have testimonials, right? If Scranton Composite Squadron 201 asked me, I would write them a huge testimonial of what Civil Air Patrol did for me as a cadet and what it helped me achieve in my later years, okay, while I was in the military after that, okay? So going out and chasing those testimonials. Let's see what you guys have. We have nothing, okay? Let me write a question. What would you put in your package? Okay, so, right, check that out. Share with me, please. All right, going back to presentation, and we'll just continue on. Okay, so here's some tips for building your package. So first of all, understanding your brand. Do you have a good brand or is it a bad brand? Like I said, in Wyoming, when I was in that state, there was some places that they did not want to see Civil Air Patrol, right? So we had to make up ground. We had to go rebrand ourselves and recoup all that negative publicity, all the negative interactions that we had, and we had to go back and fix our brand, right? So understanding your brand, knowing what's going on there is really huge. The next thing is making sure that your package that you put together is professional looking. So going back to the idea, is it got the right logos? Does everything have the same logos? Do you have any dated material that you need to change out? Making sure that it's consistent, making sure that it's telling the right story, that it just looks good, right? And you've seen it. You've seen packages that have been put together. It's like, wow, it was just thrown together. You don't want that. Okay. Does it convey the message that you want? Is it telling the story? Are you aiming for the right people? Like I said, if you're aiming for pilots, is it the package you put together, is that something that pilots would like to see? Okay. Does it help your cause? Okay. The order of materials does count. Right? So you have to kind of experiment with this. You're going to have to look at, when you put your package together, you have a bunch of documents. Does it make sense as you're going through the package that you're taking them on a trip? You're guiding them through the package. Does that make sense? Or is like, you have one thing here and another thing. It's like, why are those things together? Does it kind of make sense as you're going through it? And one way to find out is to have somebody who is not affiliated with your unit or even Civil Air Patrol look at your package. Right? So, kind of experiment with that. Show it to a bunch of people and ask them what their thoughts are. Right? Are you telling the story you want to tell? Are you reflecting the brand in a way that is very useful to your program? Okay, so have somebody take a look at that. And does it tie back to, so like if you're handing this out at an open house, or maybe you're a guest speaker somewhere, does the package and your presentation, are they coordinated and consistent? Right? Are you using the same logos? Do you have the same messaging on the logos? So if you have a subtitle, is that consistent across your packages? Right? So making sure those things are all working together. This is a great idea that came out of the book, is instead of just at an open house, have a bring a friend night. So have everybody bring a friend and test your recruiting package there. So have people look at the package, ask them questions, right? Have a good time, bring punch and cookies, have them look at that package and see if you can dial it in a little bit and make sure that it's going to work for you. Ho-ho! My audio keeps dropping. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what to do about that. It's I'm trying to speak. Okay, so Franklin, he mentioned that mix between headquarters recruiting material and squadron specific pamphlets and new cadet guides. Okay, very cool. All right, so things that you're building as a squadron, definitely keep tweaking it, make sure that works. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's talk about launching your recruiting campaign. All right, so you got a package put together. Now it's time to get into launching your recruiting campaign. So once again, this is building off the things that we talked about a couple months ago. So I encourage you to go back and look at that presentation. And this is kind of just an unraveling of a story. This particular book, 365 ways to, that we can build a better recruiting and retention program. But now we're getting into this idea of launching our recruiting campaign. different ways to do it. We've talked about open houses, and we'll talk about open houses real quick again. But there are other ways, and one of the ways is word of mouth recruiting. And last presentation, Colonel Ninnis talked about the 1 meter effective range, right? That's within handshake range that you're having this one-on-one conversation with somebody. And Barbara Goldman gave sound advice that every meeting, every encounter, every conversation is another opportunity to tell your organization's story. But you have to be prepared for this, right? So every opportunity, you know, you're looking for an opportunity to engage in a conversation so that you can tell Civil Air Patrol story. Whoops, let me go back to that. I have more to talk about on that, okay? So word of mouth recruiting is the most effective way that you can get our story out. It's also the least expensive, right? It costs no money to go up and engage somebody in a conversation, and that is the best way to do this, right? It's within that 1 meter range, as Colonel Ninnis says, 1 meter effective range. And why it works is we tend to trust people that we like. So when our friends tell us something, there's a high probability that we will trust them. I don't know why we do this, but we do this, right? So if an advertiser is out there that they have a 14% success rate, but if your friends tell you something, you have a 70% success rate. But when it comes to this idea of recruiting, right, we're sitting at about a 50% range that we're working on, okay? So it is incumbent upon us to work with our volunteers, each one of them, and get ready for this word of mouth campaigning, that each one of them becomes a goodwill ambassador who can go up, shake hands with somebody, tell them the CAP mission and story as part of introducing them to Civil Air Patrol. To do this effectively, we need to provide training on this, right? Not everybody just knows what the right thing to do is. So part of our jobs as recruiting and retention officers are to work with our membership to help them be able to tell our story and feel confident to go up and shake somebody's hand and tell them about Civil Air Patrol and what opportunities that we have in our program. So think about this, you know, as you go back to your units, you know, how can we provide this training? That everybody in the unit has an opportunity, and I would say even an obligation, to go out and bring more members into the fold. Okay, so this is something that word of mouth is number one in the books as far as going out and recruit. Open houses, being able to have an open house. We have talked about this. Matter of fact, the first presentation that we ever did was talking about how to hold a better open house. So I encourage you to go back to our playlist and look for that and learn about open houses. And we've talked about cohort recruiting, and all this kind of comes together. So you know, things that you want to think about is naturally everything that goes about pulling together a great open house, right? That means getting out the publicity well ahead of time, making sure the location's set up, make sure members are trained, make sure they have a good presentation, but also those recruiting packages, pulling those recruiting packages together, having those ready. that all comes into play. Okay. Some ideas that you may want to think about for your open house is look for opportunities to recognize people, not just within the organization, but if you have an opportunity to maybe give a letter or a certificate of appreciation to somebody external from the organization, this is a great opportunity to do it. So during an open house, we want to make sure that we give a good presentation. Another thing that you want to do is we're getting good at inviting the press to attend our Air Force evaluations. We also need to invite the local press to come to our open houses and learn more about Civil Air Patrol in the open houses. So a little later, we're going to talk about working with local media, but you want to build a rapport so you have that opportunity to invite somebody to come check out Civil Air Patrol and have them come to your open house. For a couple of the open houses I've given in the past, we did exactly that. We got the media to show up. They got to sit in and watch the briefing that we gave. And they asked a lot of good questions. And in the end, they wrote a story which introduced Civil Air Patrol to other parts of the town that wasn't as well versed in Civil Air Patrol. Let's see what else we got here. Nope. Moving on. Okay. So holding an open house. Now, on the flip side of an open house is be a guest speaker. Okay, so right now we're asking in an open house, asking the public to come to us. But what if we went out to the public? So if you can get on the docket to be a guest speaker for another organization, you should try to do that. So the American Legion, the VFW, the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis Club, the Lions Club. You have all these different organizations around your town that are always looking for guest speakers. And many of them are not very familiar with Civil Air Patrol, but they're civic minded, so these type of programs resonate with them, patriotic theme, especially having an important mission that we do. So you want to find out who, those organizations, who's in charge of those organizations, or who does the event planning, and see if you can line up, to be a guest speaker at their presentation. So bring your presentation to them, and see if we can get them on their own turf. And then this is also a publicity event, so you may have an opportunity to show off Civil Air Patrol. So things to think about when you do that. One is make sure that you try to approach them at the beginning of the year. So right now, as part of Civil Air Patrol, one of the things that we did in December was to plan out our next year. So when I was a squadron commander in December, we were planning. So this is a great time because a lot of organizations are doing the exact same thing. We're doing a lot of planning to what to do for this upcoming new year. And this would be a great opportunity to see if you can be signed in as a guest speaker at that particular time. Now, if you do this a lot, you may end up burning out your best guest speakers, right? So you don't want to necessarily do that. So in the book, they recommended putting together teams where you have a really experienced speaker that can talk about Civil Air Patrol, and then also somebody that's up and coming, and work as a team and basically kind of mentor the new one into the role of a guest speaker, and just keep on going, so you always have, you know, kind of an ever-growing list of guest speakers that you can sign out to an organization. But this is a great way to introduce folks to Civil Air Patrol. Naturally bringing your recruiting packages with you so you can hand those out. One of the things that you want to consider, instead of just giving a canned presentation that you do over and over, do some research on the organization that you're going to be presenting to, and try to find those hooks as a way to shape your message, so you can give the right message to those particular organizations. Okay, take a quick look, see if anybody's things to share. Hey, I'm really sorry about any lagging issues. Hopefully we'll get a good recording if you happen to jump out. So it may not necessarily be you. It could be the cold weather. We got cold weather here, so. So Ava, she says, we have a few squadrons have an open house by different organizations that are like our organization. They invite school groups, other groups like that. Very cool. That's nice. Right? And if you make a night of it and everybody gets to do a presentation, I think that's really cool. Great way of introducing to a lot of different organizations. Thanks for sharing. Very cool. Thank you. Sorry to see you go, Joe. Uh-oh, where did my presentation go? There it is. Okay. So next on my list, hold a dinner, barbecue, or pancake breakfast. Right? Bring food. Basically, the idea is bring food, have a good time, and also have an opportunity to give a presentation. Right? So one of the units that I belong to, they did pancake breakfast all the time. One of the things that I've come to realize we missed an opportunity is we probably could have given a presentation somewhere during that morning to talk about Civil Air Patrol. We had a booth, but we could have also given a presentation. Same thing with the barbecue. I think Connecticut Wing, they, you know, as part of their wing conference, they do a barbecue. Well, why not also kind of have an open house and open it up a little bit? Means a little more barbecue, but bring others into, you know, having an opportunity to get to meet people from CAP. So you got that word of mouth going on, little grip and grin, and, you know, a little food, but also an opportunity to give a presentation. As Ava was talking about, that you can partner up with other organizations, right? So as she indicated, that they got a bunch of organizations together, come together at one night and kind of showed off each of their programs. Well, we can do this also around food, right? Maybe a potluck, and bring people in to a potluck and talk about the various parts of Civil Air Patrol at that opportunity. Okay. During these events, some of those pull-up display presentations showing off Civil Air Patrol, if the wing or the region has a good set of presentations to share, having those available, showing off. The gold medal, Civil Air Patrol gold medal presentations, those are excellent. They have those available that you can download and maybe get those printed. Great opportunity to show off Civil Air Patrol. Local media. Another way of getting the word out is just basically with our local media. So one of the first ways, you know, is certainly social media, that you can do it for free, but it's really hard to get in the reach anymore that we used to. which then just leads to paid advertisements. So you can get paid advertisements for newspapers, radio, television, maybe have something in your movie theater. They also have those neighborhood weeklies like the Penny Saver. You may want to get an advertisement in that. Facebook and Google are great places to purchase ads. So you can get a lot of ad work out of those at a reasonable cost. So those are some ways that you can, get the word out. Other places that you want to consider posting your event, letting them know, where you're going to be speaking, or if you have an open house, local event calendars, right? Some places do it for free, some have a cost, but usually you can find an event calendar somewhere. Advertising on Craigslist, that's another good place to put the word out. I heard some very good success by posting unit information on Craigslist and getting a lot of people to find out about Civil Air Patrol. But also working with local media, right? One of the things that you want to do is find out who is, responsible for that particular section, feature section in your newspaper, and reaching out to them, right? Getting to know those people. Ideally, if you can get one of them to join your organization, they know all the ropes and can help you get the word out a little further. So, kind of working with your local media, that's important. See what else we got up there. So Zay, he says he's in contact with community leaders around the area. They're very interested in the program because they have youth organizations, but they have not heard of Civil Air Patrol. So right on, go out there and definitely talk about about Civil Air Patrol, right? Very good. Okay. Oh, and Ava also commented that some schools have clubs that are interested in CAP, right? Go into the organizations. If you can make that happen, that is absolutely great. Thank you for sharing. Keep on sharing. Press releases. Once upon a time, I worked in public affairs in Civil Air Patrol. So I got to learn a lot about press releases. But, I thought it was just about reporting the news. I was very naive. What a press release does is help to keep shaping and reinforcing your brand. So press releases are about the news as opposed to publicity releases, which is just talking about yourself. You really want to talk about the news, what the membership is doing and doing well in your organization. If they're involved in searches, if you have, cadets earning the Mitchell or Earhart Spots Awards, those are definitely, things that you want to get press releases out. And it's important that you have somebody in your organization dedicated to writing these things, because you definitely want to get those out. Timing for press releases is critical. You don't want to be too early. You don't want to be a month away from, like doing a press release for your Air Force eval. You want to make sure that the timing is a lot closer, but not too close, right? You don't want to miss an opportunity. So you have to talk. That's why it's important to get know those media personalities, to talk to them and say, what's a good time to submit a press release if we want you to show up, or we want, people to know about it on a certain time, and they'll tell you. So you have to talk with them and develop this rapport on what you can provide them. You got to remember that their job is to sell newspapers or radio spots. So you have to think about what is good for them, what's a good story. When you're dealing with the local news, they want to talk about everybody in the community because that helps them sell their papers, right? So going out and putting a Mitchell Award, they'll do that because they know members of that family will buy newspapers to clip that out. Okay, so there's, you know, this is helping each other, right? And it's important that we work with this, okay? So you can make press releases do kind of multiple duties. And one of the ways is knowing about your membership. So if you have a member that belongs to a certain company they work for, that company often has their own newsletter. So if you send a press release to their public affairs or their human resources, that may end up being in a local newspaper for the company or newsletter, and that looks good for the company, right? And it helps us. They get to know more about Civil Air Patrol, and it opens that door where, you know, Captain Smith just got promoted to Major Smith. You write up this press release, you send it out to their company, and somebody comes up and is like, hey, what's this idea? You know, you became a major. What's that all about? Now it gets back to that word of mouth recruiting, and that word of mouth recruiting is the most effective and costs the least, right? So this all works together with this idea of press releases. By getting press releases, you in turn get positive stories written about your organization that you can take those positive stories, put them right back into your recruiting packages. All right, so this is kind of this vicious circle that I talked about. If you can, you know, if you have guest speakers coming to your organization, doing a press release, right? Talk about that, right? Get them tied in there, right? They will have a positive experience, and it reflects back on the organization. So one of the ideas that came out of this book was to create a press release about an appointment of one of your volunteers to lead your next recruiting campaign. Right? So this is kind of a way to use the news to get your publicity out. Right? So having a press release of the appointment of an individual who's going to do your recruiting campaign and when that recruiting campaign is going to happen. Right? So getting out there and talking about the good stuff that you've got going on. Let's see. So Eva also have some units that have parents and members that wear unit supporter shirts during public events. Very cool. Right? Any way that you can get this out, get support, get the word out about Civil Air Patrol, excellent. So where are we, right? Press releases. And I think we have basically come to the end of this presentation tonight. So what did we talk about, okay? So we started this presentation talking about our brand, right? What makes us unique? What makes us stand out about anyone else? Why would somebody want to be part of Civil Air Patrol? What does your local brand look like? How strong is that brand? Is it a good brand? Is it positive or is it negative? How does that all come into play? Okay. What can you do to build a better brand? Start out by delivering what you promise. Right? If you make a promise, you need to deliver on it. Okay. From there, with all that information, then we can start building our recruiting package. Right? Getting all that promotional material in there, making sure we have a good contact, somebody that they can actually reach, who will answer the phone, who will answer the email, and answer their questions. Right? That's probably the biggest part of it. Okay. Going in and looking for opportunities to meet with other people, whether it's word of mouth, having an open house, going in and being a guest speaker from someone else, or pushing out things, through the media, right? All different ways of getting the word out. So we have a lot of stuff to do. You guys are doing great. The numbers are definitely keep improving, and I appreciate you going out there and shaking the bushes. So with that, let me go back and boom. Okay. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation, right on time. And I once again appreciate you coming in. Let me check to see if there's any questions out there, any comments. Franklin, he adds that submit a press release for every activity you do, even O-flights. They may not pick up everything, but they'll pick up some. Okay, good advice, right? Doesn't hurt, right? And a lot of these, you already have the template, put together. Once you've done one O-flight, you can many more come from that. So very good. Well, I will hang out online here for a few minutes. If you have any questions, anything else you want to add, please do so. And otherwise, I wish you a great night and keep on going. Holiday season's upon us. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, all kinds of holidays out there. So, yeah. And let's get ready to launch into a new year and see if we can improve the numbers from what we did in 2016. So keep on going. Thank you very much, folks. Have a wonderful night.